All right, we are live. This is Jason Hull with the DoorGrow Show, and I'm hanging out here with John Ray of Inspecting Cloud. John, how are
Hey,
you doing today?
hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Jason.
Hey, glad to have you. So, John, tell everybody a little bit about you so they understand where your background seems kind of interesting in the bio that you sent me over. So, share a little bit of your story, and then that could lead us right into Inspecting Cloud and how that came to be.
Yeah, well, when I was 18, I got a real estate license, and I thought I was going to be the next big Texas real estate tycoon and have my 10-gallon hat and be walking around kicking fences at all my ranch land. And it turned out that at 18, it was harder to sell houses than I thought, but I was really good at the tech side of things. The internet was just kind of becoming a thing in small businesses, and so I found myself developing websites for realtors and for property managers, and really kind of thriving more in the marketing side of real estate. So I jumped around from Remax to Real Property Services to Equity Residential, and did everything from property management to selling investment properties and lead generation for that. And that kind of put me in the space of just working with small businesses, and really helping them understand the online landscape. And an opportunity opened up for me to go and teach at a bigger level at Google. And so I went and worked for Google and had a team of about 100 brand ambassadors, and we traveled all over the country throwing these big events where we would teach entrepreneurs, sometimes up to 3,000 of them in the audience from all over each state. Everything from, hey, this is what email is, to, hey, this is advanced search engine optimization and how you can utilize it to generate leads in your business. So after we had gone to all 50 states, you can only teach entrepreneurship so long before you want to kind of get back into it.
Right.
And I was really kind of fascinated with this idea of backpack entrepreneurship, this idea that you could build something and really be of service to a niche community, but run it all from a computer in a backpack anywhere in the world. And so I started looking into, SaaS, software as a solution. I talked to some of my old property management friends, kind of put them through a quiz of like, what are the most frustrating things happening in your business? And it seemed like time and time again, people were landing on this idea of, we don't know what to do with all these property inspections. We're doing it by pen and paper. They've all got coffee stains. When we have to go to court, we can't find them because they're in a storage unit somewhere. And so it just seemed like there was an opportunity, 3.5, 4 years ago when we started in the marketplace to digitize all this, put these reports in the cloud, make them searchable, and really kind of allow property managers to better present what they were doing at each property, and build a competitive advantage for them, because property owners really do like these reports that get generated as PDFs. So that's kind of, I merged my early real estate career with kind of the tech Silicon Valley experience that I had, and Inspecting Cloud was born out of that. And over the past 3.5 years, we've grown from 0 users to over 1,000, and are really seeing property managers use this from everything from saving time and money, spending less time out at each property, being able to offer additional reports to their property owners to prove value, and putting it in their prospecting kits to showcase that they're going to be handling the property in a way that warrants you hiring them as a property manager.
Okay, great. So Inspecting Cloud, for those that have never heard of it, basically is a service, a software platform that allows them to easily do inspection reports.
Yeah, we digitize the property inspection reports. So, most property managers at a minimum are doing an inspection report when a tenant moves in and when someone moves out. And rather than doing that by pen and paper, which unfortunately a lot of the industry is still using, or some kind of antiquated, Excel spreadsheet system, we allow you to create a checklist, an itemized checklist of room areas and room items that you want to make sure are inspected in every single property. And so you develop that template in our desktop solution or our web-based solution, and then you can use our Android or iPhone app to go out to the property, collect all of the information, take photos, type out comments, use audio comments, take video, and then we compile all of that information into a PDF report that can then be emailed to your maintenance staff, to a property owner, or to anyone else who needs that information. And it all gets stored in the cloud so that if you ever have to reference that, whether it's in a court hearing or just to reconcile your books, you'll have those from any computer in the world.
Okay, great. So property managers that are using Inspecting Cloud, what were they doing before?
Well, a lot of the industry is still using some sort of a paper system kind of melded with like a Microsoft Word template that they use or a Microsoft Excel template. So, a lot of people are still like taking photos on a digital camera, then they, try to find the cord, plug that into the computer, import all of those, and they're sending hundreds of photos to a property owner as an email attachment in no real order. And so what we've done is basically made it really easy to collect whatever information you need about a property, to split that up into room areas and various itemized categories, add your comments, attach photos with a timestamp, and organize all of that information automatically so that you're not having to pay a receptionist or somebody doing data entry, at $12 an hour. Some property managers were spending up to 3 or 4 hours compiling each report. Wow. And we're able to deliver that same information in a much easier to read format, in a matter of minutes.
So they're collapsing 3 to 4 hours down to minutes?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the property and how detailed the report is, but on average in the old system, when we'd go out with a stopwatch, we had people that were spending up to 2 hours at the physical property, and then when they got back to the office, sometimes up to 4 hours compiling the report. So you're talking about taking 6 hours of potential time that goes into creating these reports to send to a property owner and boiling that down to easily less than half an hour.
So you mentioned the, and I should point out, like property managers, like if you can save time on anything, just do it. If you can save time on anything, you should just do it, because software, first of all, is cheaper than people. Second, I mean, because first thing I hear out of every property manager's mouth when they start actually growing and they're scaling is, oh, I need to hire more people. Rather than, hey, maybe we should make our systems and our processes actually scalable rather than throwing a human being at the pile every time there's some sort of level of growth, right? So they need to build a business that's scalable, and they need to have technology and things in place to make that possible from day one. And the people that need this most are the people that are just starting out, that have nothing like this. They have no systems, no processes, and they're doing everything themselves. They're going to get trapped at about 50, 60 doors doing everything themselves, and they won't be able to hire that person at $12 or $15 an hour. Probably more likely they can't get them on because they can't afford to bring on somebody full-time. And then the challenge with part-time, there's a whole host of challenges there. And so they can't afford to bring anybody on, and they're doing everything themselves, and then they end up trapped. So to avoid that trap, I always recommend technology. So now you talked about the people that are doing, everything manually and doing things, like old school. And if anyone listening is doing that's dinosaur level property management, you are going to be eaten alive by my clients. That's just going to happen. They're going to destroy you. So please, like, don't do that or become a client. But what would you say to those that have like Appfolio or some of these Propertyware and some of these big property management software? I imagine most of these have some sort of inspection thing in place. Do you find that people still use Inspecting Cloud? And maybe what's different? Maybe you could touch on that.
Yeah, it's a good question because a lot of the, rent roll programs have kind of tagged on as kind of an afterthought, some sort of an inspection solution. But we actually get a lot of people that, have gone out and kind of run the gamut of trying all the different things out there. And they either weren't getting the customer service that they want, or they didn't have the functionality that they want, or the app was crashing on them on a regular basis. And it's because I think nothing against any of those companies. Like the pie in the property management industry is totally big enough for us all to exist and thrive. Competition, I think, breeds innovation, and that's certainly where a lot of our functionality and features have come. But when you have some of these really big companies that are trying to do everything, they end up not really doing anything very well. And it's kind of, we're a small, scrappy startup. We only have 12 employees, but the way that I like to describe it is like some of these big companies, when they design something, it's like turning a cruise ship. And because we're small, we're in the industry, we're talking to people, and our only focus is Inspecting Cloud, we're able to pivot very quickly, more like a speedboat. And a lot of our functionality over the last 3 years has been from myself and my associates getting on phone calls every single week, talking to property managers, asking, what needs to be added, what needs to be changed, like where is the industry headed, and making sure that we stay ahead of the curve so that we always have a solution that is going to hit 30 or 40 different or more data points that are really valuable and create a perceived value for a property management business, instead of like an Appfolio who's just tacking on additional products so that they can make an extra 30, 40, $70 a month off of you.
Yeah, so I think you make a really, really valid point. I mean, essentially, there are these big platforms, these companies, and they try to do everything. And they tend to be more jack of all trades, master of maybe one, right? And the challenge that I see is, and a lot of people will go with those. And the challenge that I see with those property managers is they go with it because they're like, well, everything's kind of there, and they just do that. And I tried that business model sort of in my own business. I'm like, let's just use internally. Let's just use like one software that does everything. But we found that if we use a software that did project management, customer relationship management, like a sales CRM that had internal communications, had billing, had support, these were the worst software ever. Like every single piece was worse. And the challenge with that is we operated far less efficiently, and it was cheaper. We had this Frankenstein that was cheaper, but then we took and we found, I was like, this is not working. I want the best. I want the best, because if I can find the best software, even if it's like 10 times the price in combination of everything else, it's saving me massively on time savings.
Yeah, and you make a good point in that being a property manager, the millennials are starting property management companies all over the place, and they're instantly implementing all of this software, and so a lot of what I'm doing with property managers is kind of helping bridge the generational gap. Like, here's how I know this is how property managers used to do things. Here's how the millennials are doing it, and they're the ones going after all of your property owners right now. You want the best. You want to be able to showcase that as a property manager, you're utilizing the best tools out there. And so you want to work with software companies that not only know how to develop software, but also understand you as a property manager. And I think that's what makes, smaller operations like yours, Jason, and mine so successful is that, I know your brother was in the property management industry, and clearly was working in my 20s through the property management industry. And I think that you and I are just both really curious people. That's the sense that I get from you. And so we're constantly wanting to pick people's brain, like what's working for you, what's not working for you. And then we're implementing that into the systems that we're developing. And when it comes to Inspect Cloud versus some of these bigger platforms that developed inspection tools kind of as an afterthought so they could make, an extra $40 a month, we're really competitively priced even with them. And one of the biggest things that I hear from property managers is that they need customization. Not every single property, really no property is going to be exactly the same. And one of the key things that we've built into Inspect Cloud is the ability to customize templates for each type of property. So you can have a template that's for single family homes, one for multifamily homes, one for HOA inspections, one for roadside inspections. And you can send, once you've developed these checklists, you just add anyone in your office as an inspector. Anyone with an iPhone or Android can download the app, and they can go out there and seamlessly, flawlessly collect all of this information, whether they've ever done an inspection or not.
And then just follow the process.
Right. It's a binary yes/no system. So they literally are just going through the app, answering yes/no to a series of questions for each item and room area in the template, adding photos when it feels relevant, adding comments and video when it feels relevant. And then our system takes all of that data that they've entered and organizes it in a way that's really valuable for a maintenance staff, for a property owner. And so, we have a lot of people who are turning their receptionists into a part-time inspector because our software makes it easy for anybody to go out there and collect the level and quality of information that is demanded by property owners.
This is the kind of stuff that gets me really excited. Like I would imagine people listening right now are getting a little bit excited just hearing that. I mean, checklists, having systems and processes that anybody can follow is like the dream in business. If you're going to have staff, that's what you want. The ultimate goal for any business owner should not be to build a team and then manage that team. The goal should be to manage systems and processes and let those manage the team.
I agree wholeheartedly. And one of the other features that we built into Inspect Cloud is basically we have several levels of inspector. We have a company level, then we have a master inspector level, and then we have a sub inspector level. And from the company and master inspector level, you have the ability to monitor everything that your inspectors are doing. So if you have 5 people out in the field, each inspecting 20 properties, you're going to be able to see which properties were assigned to them. Are they pending? Have they been completed? There's a dashboard for you to see how much time did they spend at a property. A lot of times an employee will go out and they'll blow 4 hours at a property because they don't want to have to go back to the office and do real work. And so, but the time they arrive at the property to the time they finish the report, we tell you how much time was spent there, and then kind of give you a leaderboard of which of your inspectors are most efficient so that you can honor and award people who are going out and getting things done in an efficient manner.
Wow, creating transparency and accountability in a business is huge. That's a big deal because theft within organizations happens all the time. I've had team members and employees that I felt that were stealing time, and everybody's kind of dealt with this before. Creating that accountability makes everybody in the organization feel safer, makes the organization profitable, and makes a better environment for everybody to live in. Yeah. Now, does your software even do like GPS tracking on these people? I mean,
to a certain extent, it's not as Big Brother as you may sound, but we do showcase. We have GPS maps built into the app so that people can easily find where the properties are that have been assigned to them. And it also, there's a level of kind of gamification. I mean, that's what we found is that it's kind of fun to see, how quickly can I do this property? How many can I do in a row? Which of my properties are all in the same neighborhood? Can I get them all done in one day? There's a reason that every single app in the world is putting badges and awards on things, because people like to see if they can beat their best score. We've seen that since the arcade days. And even though we're not like offering all kinds of crazy badges to inspectors because it's just not really needed, there is an inherent, anytime you're collecting data on your own personal performance, there's an inherent gamification that almost makes, doing this fun.
Yeah, and it incentivizes. See, when people know what's expected and they know exactly what to do, and they're given the tool to do it, and they naturally performance will start to improve and increase. So that's interesting. I mean, just the time savings alone. And when I say time, I want everybody to think time multiplied by their hourly rate, or by whatever you're paying them, or by what they could have been doing to create additional productivity in the business instead of wasting time. So time is money. And so if anything that can save time would offset any software costs, period. Like, people need to realize this. Like, anything that you can hand off to another company can do to do or to facilitate is cheaper than people. And anything that can facilitate also lowering the cost of your staff, and that can be a game changer. So I'll give everybody an example. So I got on Skype just like this. I got on Skype with Jason Fried. Have you heard of this guy? He created Basecamp.
Oh, yeah.
Basecamp, right? All right. He also wrote all these books on virtual teams and everything. This guy's pretty high level. I was like stoked to be talking to him. And he took a look at my business at the time, and we had all these different things that were going on. And one example, I had one piece of software that I figured out was cutting our productivity in half across the board. Everybody in my organization was less effective because of one piece of software. And I'll call them out. The software was Slack. Everybody loves Slack. But the problem was Slack gave us no context, and everything was immediate and urgent. We had interruptions constantly. We thought this was better than email, and everything was instant. And the most segregation that it gave us was by project. So we had different rooms, and we were constantly interrupting each other. It was just this flow of diarrhea of messages in each room, and there was no context. Nothing was associated with a particular task or a particular topic in that project. And every single person on the team would have to go and look what's been going on. We were seriously, my costs went so he showed me Basecamp, and we started using that, and we started doing using it the right way, because it also has that feature in it, which is called campfires. But we started using it effectively and properly, and my staffing costs, I'm not joking, overnight cut in half. We were doing meetings, Google Hangout meetings, because I run a virtual team. We were doing them constantly. And we were more productive than our big competitors that are big and slow. And like you were saying, they're like the cruise ship trying to turn around. But let me tell you, when we started leveraging proper communication within the organization and leveraging software effectively and understanding the right way to use it, and I trained my team how to use it properly, overnight, all these Google Hangout meetings that we're doing constantly, and these breakout sessions and everything to solve problems and figure things out, and the constant interruptions all went away. We have one team meeting a week, and we pretty much don't even talk about projects. And we used to talk about projects constantly. Everybody knows what's going on. Everybody has context. Only the people that need to be interrupted or message about something are, and really most interruptions are gone because we guard against that as an organization.
Yeah.
And so leveraging software can have a huge impact on your business. And I don't think people realize, if they take one situation, which is inspections and all the things that could be connected to that, and they multiply it by every single inspection they do with every single employee that's doing them, that these costs and this time and everything really balloons out of control, and they won't know until they try it out.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, there's so many studies that have been done on time management. Actually, if you're in the real estate industry and you haven't read this book, The One Thing, there's a whole book. There's a whole chapter. This is written by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, and I had the good fortune of being able to work with Jay to develop the online course for time blocking mastery. And, the concept of time blocking is this idea that your business can't be like you said, a Slack environment where you're just constantly being barraged by interruptions. You really have to, in the book, they call it bunkering down. And it's this idea that if you can create segments in your day where you know that you're going to be specifically focused on one thing, you become much more effective in your work. Creativity levels are higher. Stress chemicals and like cortisol are lower. And so you just become a more effective manager and person by bunkering down and having these time. But one of the interesting studies that they've done is showcasing how much time is wasted in 5 to 7 minute segments throughout the day. Anytime an employee is walking to the break room or having to walk to the copy machine, or God forbid you're still using a fax machine, that walk from their desk to the fax machine, they're going to run into one or two different people. They're going to have little 2 to 3 minute conversations. And so you're talking about over the course of an 8-hour day, they're wasting 1-2 hours just kind of moving about through the office, or doing menial tasks, or being interrupted by constant email or chat messenger applications. And so, with Inspect Cloud, we really wanted to systematize this so that your inspections can become bunkered time. And when you go out there, you can be really effective with that time, and then create a deliverable, in this case, the inspection report PDF, that is going to make your property management company have more perceived value to your owners. Because property owners, especially when they're out of state or out of city owners, really love to get a regular report showcasing what their property looks like. They love to look at video. They love to look at photos because it feels like they're walking through the property, and it reinforces to them that on a regular basis, someone is going in and checking on their property. And I know this for certain because I can see the images.
I think that's huge, because one of the biggest myths about property management that's holding the industry kind of captive, that's preventing the market share from building, preventing property managers from getting on additional business, are, one, crappy property managers. There's a lot of them out there. They're not really doing inspections. They're not taking the time to do this stuff. But also, it's all of those that are not being the squeaky wheel. They're not letting people know that they're actually doing something. And so the perception of those that are aware, because not everybody's aware of property management. That's a challenge. But it's also an opportunity for those that are savvy. And my clients hearing this, they know what I'm talking about. But the challenge is with excuse me, with all right, the cold's getting the best of me here. So the challenge is with the property managers that are not letting people know that they're doing something. They're also contributing to this problem. They're creating this perception that property managers just take my money. I can just do nothing and let the property, go down the drain over time. I could just collect rent. I could set up a system to do that. So, but they don't want the awkward moments of going into a property, inspecting it, walking around. They don't want to deal with that. They don't want the awkward moments of collecting rent and these kind of things. This is why they hire a property manager. So if you can deliver a nice report, you can deliver video, you can deliver this stuff, you're letting them know that you're doing something. So I worked at HP, and I had this boss. I was up in Boise and my boss was in Texas, and I was on this team of two. We were the two people over this system they used for the entire company. There were two administrators for this in all of HP over this. It was a system for document storage and workflow and approval process. So every PDF that went through, we had to go through an approval process and everything before it went public. And so I was on this team that would support this system. And we had this boss, and his perception of us constantly was that we were doing nothing. And so I learned really quickly that to just change my instant message status and the stuff that he could see, I was like, where is he getting the perception that I'm doing nothing? So I started changing my instant message status. I started letting him know, like sending him a message, hey, I'm doing this, and now I'm working on this. Hey, today I'm doing this. And soon he started like hopping on and saying, hey, what's your coworker? Is he working? Is he doing, like, he thought I was the only person doing anything. The reality was we were both working constantly, but it's the perception that matters a lot of times. And your job as a property manager isn't to just manage a property. It's to manage peace of mind for your clients. And if you have something and you add in a piece of the puzzle, like Inspecting Cloud, and it facilitates that even just a little bit more, you're going to increase client retention. You're going to increase word of mouth business, because they're going to be like, yeah, look at this report. Look at the stuff they're doing. They're awesome. They're great. You're going to increase your online reputation and get better reviews. And all of that means more business and more money and retaining and getting more market share in your local market. So one thing you mentioned, I wanted to touch on. So a lot of property managers, the reason they wouldn't sign up for your service or they wouldn't go and get third-party software is because they're just trying to keep software costs low. This is their perception. For those listening, I want to point out, this is probably one of the biggest mistakes you can make in your business, is to try and keep the thing that can save you the most time and the most money, to keep those costs low versus staffing costs. It's probably the stupidest thing that I hear happening in the industry is they are, well, that I don't want to add that or do this because that adds more money. And I already have something that's okay, when they're shuffling that cost and pushing that weight towards staff, and their staffing costs are ballooning through the roof. Now, do you guys integrate with some of these different software platforms?
So that's kind of our most recent expansion of Inspecting Cloud. Right now, we're integrated with Promise accounting software. That's kind of the first integration that has happened this year. That went live in January. But we're definitely in negotiation with a lot of other platforms to start making those type of integrations available. And, you know, because we allow you to download a standalone PDF, a lot of people just have created a system where they download PDF from our system because it's so easy to create and looks so good. And then they just upload that PDF into whatever system, you know, they're using at that particular moment. So we give you the ability to you know, kind of move that information about, and we are looking to make those integrations. But you know, the biggest value and the most commented on thing that we get, to kind of piggyback on what you were just saying, is that there is so much value in showing your property owners that you're actually doing something. And you know, your story about you at HP reminded me of some advice that I was given when I started working at Google. And it was like, always be the person to take really great notes in every meeting you go to, and then email the notes out to everyone who was in the meeting. And that served me so well because it made it look like I was the guy running all of these meetings. I was the guy who was implementing all of these ideas, even though I was just really taking notes on what other people were saying. But I was promoted many more times than some of my peers and colleagues that I started out with. And I think a lot of it had to do with that I became so good at showcasing that I was doing work. And for property managers, that's huge because retention is everything. And if you cannot consistently keep the prospects that you're bringing into your business, it's like having a ship that's sinking and you're constantly having to plug the leaks. And Inspect and Cloud is such a good way to build a perceived value, to showcase that you're going above and beyond what your competitors are offering, and to really put people's nervous systems at ease. I mean, people spend money based on what their nervous system is telling them to do. And if they're getting a regular report from you, there's kind of like this sigh of relief that happens with that. And then they're okay to continue writing the check or cutting you your commission.
I love it. That is such a great hack, the taking notes. And
Yeah.
I've seen people do this in businesses. Some people have created a whole business just off of going to certain conferences and taking notes. And then they turn around and sell their notes. Even to the people that put the conference on are buying these notes and using these notes because they want to have this resource, this summary. So that's a great hack for getting ahead in business, guys. So, all right. So what else should they know about Inspect and Cloud that we haven't talked about? Oh, you know what? Real quick. So that what you had mentioned about integration, I believe this is the future. Every company that is trying to lock down, build a wall around your business, prevent you from working with outside companies and vendors, doesn't have an open API, which is an application sort of interface that allows their software to communicate with other people's software. These companies, my belief is they're going to fail or they're going to have a very difficult time. Free property management software and some of these things is probably coming down the pike. All of these companies are going to be doing API integrations with each other. They're all going to be communicating. So somebody will be able to pick and choose. They'll have their property management software. They can then pick their maintenance coordination software. They can pick their inspection software. They can pick their prospective tenants and property marketing sort of platform. They'll be able to take all these pieces and create their ultimate system that all works well and speaks well together. And they'll be able to pick and choose the best and build the business based on what's the best out there. And then if they want to change out one piece, they'll be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, and one of the interesting things is that people are usually property managers that I speak with, the first thing that they want to do is get a really good accounting software, a really good rent roll software. And that makes total sense. Like, you have to have kind of the bones of your business set up. But there's a hesitancy to spend money on software when something is going out to the property manager or going out to the property owner. So they're skimping on the software that the property owner actually has a touch point with, and it's just backwards thinking, because you want to put your best foot forward anytime the property owner is peering into your business. And these reports are such a valid and valuable way to showcase that your company's got it together and they're on the ball.
Yeah. And I think putting out that image, that's branding, that's perception. And you want to maintain this high perception at all times that you're high value. And what would be really cool for my clients that use our Gather Kudos service, tying those two together, like put your Gather Kudos link on the bottom of these reports, that anybody that goes that you're giving these reports to gives you an opportunity to give your business feedback, because this is another touch point you have with your customer.
Yeah, I love that. We need to do that for sure.
Cool. So Inspecting Cloud, how can people check this out? And I think you even put together a little present for people that are going to be listening to the DoorGrow show and watching this.
Yeah, what I tell people is you're going to immediately see the value once you do a test inspection. And so for anybody listening to this podcast, if they go to inspectandcloud.com/DoorGrow, you can sign up for a 14-day free trial, no credit card needed. That no credit card offer is just for listeners of this podcast. And that's going to allow you to just, go and create we have some general reports that you can use without even having to build out a custom report, just to kind of get a feel for how things work. And I just encourage people to go in and do an inspection of your office or of your bedroom or something, just to understand how simple it is to collect the information and then have it packaged in this really beautiful report.
Fantastic. I love this idea. I love your insights. Obviously, this guy is a savvy guy, and he's making sure that this thing is intuitive and works really well. And John, really excited to have you on the show. I appreciate you coming out. Everybody go and check out inspectingcloud.com/DoorGrow and try out their software. And any parting words for people listening to the DoorGrow show?
You know, I think that what I always tell property managers is that perceived value is everything, and what your competitive advantage looks like is what allows you to collect prospects over someone else, because they're talking to multiple people. They're comparing you with the guy down the street or the gal down the street, and so the more tools and assets that you can put into your prospecting kits to showcase why you're better than everybody else in town, that perceived value is everything, and it's what builds long-term customers. And you know, in software, we have a term called churn rate, which is basically the amount of time that somebody sticks with the software before they cancel the software. And you want your churn rate to be as long as possible. Well, the same thing goes with property management. You want to keep people in your property management firm as much as possible so that you don't have this leaky ship. And you do that by constantly going above and beyond what you promised. And the Inspection Cloud inspection reporting system is a really great way to, on a regular basis, showcase that value above and beyond what you promised your property owners.
Fantastic. Hey, John, thanks for coming out and hanging out with us on the DoorGrow show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jason.